So building ecosystems of innovation. So this is what I'll talk you through, my entrepreneurial journey, a bit about what we do. Yeah, great, thank you. Yes, you always need to do more in Israel than in any other country. It's a statistical fact.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'll try it one more time. Shh. Thank you. And then on the power of networks, and then lessons from 20 years of developing new ventures and innovating with corporates. So we do a lot of that. So quickly, a little bit about me for those that don't know, or for those that are way too young to remember lastminute.com. We are celebrating our 20-year anniversary of lastminute.com. That was one of the first unicorns. It was a unicorn when unicorns were truly rare. Now you have to be a decacorn to get any respect. But in those days, a unicorn was all right. Also, co-founder and founding chairman of Made.com, which is a pretty successful online furniture play, direct from factory to consumer, crowdsourced furniture. I think that will be another unicorn business at some point, is my bet. Lots of investing and investments, can talk more about. This is just 40 investments, means just my angel investing, but companies I've had stakes in through various things is, I think, over 200 probably. And I can explain how that's worked. Talked a bit about lastminute.com, so quickly, I could talk more. Actually, by the way, if anyone wants to be very Israeli into the local scene and just step up and ask a question, that would be brilliant. So happy to be interrupted mid-flow or random stream of consciousness, whatever you think this is. After lastminute.com, sold it in 2005, actually, yeah, and left in 2006. Took it public. For the record, we went public 18 months after launch. That is faster than any other European internet company has ever gone public. We increased the price during the roadshow. This was .com bubble #1. I'm not saying there is a #2, but definitely it was #1. March 2000, we priced the IPO the day the market peaked. We did a faster roadshow than anyone, and we increased the price more than anyone had done in Europe previously from the beginning of the roadshow to the end. That meant we were 42 times oversubscribed. That's what a Giffen good is. At the time, it was the higher the price, the more the demand. But then that changed the day after we IPO'd on March the 15th. That was no longer the rule, and the stock price went down 95% as the bubble burst. I can talk more about that, but we ended up picking ourselves up and selling it, as I said, to Sabre Travelocity for over $1 billion after 8 years of trauma and 5 years of being a public company. So then co-founded Founders Forum, which I'll talk a little bit more later. MyDeco.com, which was my best idea yet, but not necessarily best return. 3D visualization, well too early in 2007 or 8. We sold off bits of that business, but actually very luckily spun out Made.com, a much simpler, very elegant idea, as I described, crowdsourcing furniture. Also set up a venture capital firm, Pro-Founders Capital, which was entrepreneurs backing entrepreneurs, but I've taken that into next generation later on. Founders Intelligence, a consultancy to help corporates innovate, that's actually pretty successful. We can talk more about that. Founders Pledge, so for those interested in social good, this is a giving pledge where over 1,000 entrepreneurs commit to their proceeds to philanthropy. So that has several hundreds of millions of dollars of social giving from founders committed. Founders Keepers, digital recruitment. SmartUp, a platform for entrepreneurs to learn from entrepreneurs, which has also become a corporate learning management tool, mobile, microgaming, quizzes. Corporate saying, how do we cope with digital transformation, with digital learning? This has been a pretty good answer. And then Founders Factory, I'll talk about more. Grip is, actually sometimes, I'm not sure if we are working, often we've worked with DLD before in the past. Grip is an AI-based platform to work out who you should meet at events. It came from, like all the businesses I've founded or co-founded, from a problem as a user. How, with all of you here today, do you know who should meet each other? Serendipity is wonderful. Yossi and the DLD team do wonderful curation, but it still means you're not going to meet everybody you want to meet. So Grip does a lot of the work for that. Then we co-founded, then we did Founders of the Future, which is for young, upcoming people who aren't yet entrepreneurs, but we think they should be. Then we did Accelerate Her, where we had an opening event last night. This is to promote gender diversity in technology, backed by some pretty good companies like Microsoft and Intel. And then most recently, First Minute Capital, which is a seed venture fund. It's a $100 million fund backed by 30 founders of unicorn businesses. I told you they weren't that rare, but we still to curate 30 of them is not bad. And a load of others I'll talk more about. And then one of the most recent companies I'm also very excited about, because this is Israel, I thought I should mention it. It is the Robot Restaurant, not its actual name, but describes what it does anyway. So flagship robot restaurant, think theater, think theatrical, but also think operating system of automation for the entire restaurant industry. So we're very excited about what that business can do. And I guess where would the personal pain point be? I think just like all of us, going into restaurants, getting appalling service means you see that actually we overrate sometimes that value of too many humans. A few might be good in a restaurant, but we don't need too many. So we think we can lower the cost and change that. And then the other why now moment, which is very important for those that are starting businesses, to be able to articulate why is now the moment for this business. And why now for this is because robotics costs are falling, AI means you can do this stuff, it's actually manageable. Cost of labor gone up hugely for low-skilled labor in places like England, partly due to things like Brexit. And actually it also fits into the sustainability angle because you can run restaurants more efficiently with less wastage. So, Founders Forum. So this is very quickly, Founders Forum, we're here today partly because Yossi told us to be here, and also because with Yossi's and DLD's support, we hosted an event this morning, and that's where I've just come from, which is a separate type of curation of world-class technology founders, and you can see some of the names here. This is, really just saying overall for the group, what is it? Everything that we do is really trying to support entrepreneurs in their journey, and we think we come at it that from it. There's like a menu of what you can do to support entrepreneurs, and we're sort of slowly ticking off lots of bits across that entrepreneurial journey of how we can be most helpful to entrepreneurs. That's really our pitch across a lot of our businesses, is how can we help them hugely. And then sort of getting to, I guess, the brand promise on the name of this talk, which is sort of what should corporates do, how do corporates innovate. We've spoken a bit, we've heard Burda talk about some of their strategy just now. They're obviously ahead of the game compared to many players in this space. So many of them, we really do talk them through talk them through right behind me. Talk them through those various phases from building themselves, and there are debates around corporates whether you should do internal or external incubation. Our answer is a little bit Delphic Oracle. It's both. We actually believe if you're a big enough corporate, you should really be doing both. Partnering, this is known as open innovation, obviously. It's part of what you're witnessing here today in spades. But we do a lot of work with corporates in trying to find the right startups for them to work with. And then invest, obviously you've got those various angles of whether it's acceleration, corporate venturing, or acquisition. And at the bottom you can see our companies that help. So Founders Intelligence helping you across all of them at the background, thinking about what your strategy should be, approach to all of these things. And then you've got some of the logos at the bottom. Founders Factory, which I'll go into more, is the intertwined Fs under acceleration and external incubation, because we do both of those. And then we support that with academic partnerships through Founders Forum. And through First Minute Capital, that's obviously bits of corporate venturing, because some corporates have invested in us, but obviously mainly a seed early stage funds. And then core culture, which tends to be a huge amount of the conversation at corporates, is how do you change that culture? How do you change attitudes to failure? How do you stop your HR team being the enemy of innovation? How do you, sorry, is that, that's fine. How do you stop the obvious things about consensus being the key way in which corporates tend to manage rather than taking a portfolio approach to risk, which is really the only way in this uncertain world to get through it all. So one of the answers we came up with when thinking about corporate innovation was, actually don't try and do it all yourself. There are lots of reasons why good entrepreneurs don't want to work with you as a corporate. You are bureaucratic. You probably have a really bad API, a really bad interface for entrepreneurs. You are probably guilty of wasting lots of entrepreneurs' time. You may take them to 10 meetings, with 10 people in every meeting with 0 decision makers in the meeting. This would be typical. You are not alone. But it is terminal to startups. It kills them. They do not have time to waste with people who don't make decisions. So we've looked at this in various different ways. We try and help the corporates work on their API to startups. That would be through Founders Intelligence. But also, we say, right, work with us on Founders Factory. This comes from the problem statement of me being on big corporate boards and seeing how hard it is to innovate. Not because people are stupid, but just because it's hard with corporate structures. Myself, even when I ran a small company, 2,000 people at lastminute.com, finding how hard at the end, even as founding CEO, it was to innovate rather than cost cut. Because cost cutting is consensus, it's easy. Innovation, when you're big and public, being longer term, is really hard. So what we said to our corporate backers is invest in a corporate vehicle where you will have a share of equity in everybody's sector, and on your behalf, we will accelerate 5 companies a year and incubate, in other words, launch from scratch. The difference being acceleration companies already exist. Incubation, launch from scratch. We'll launch from scratch 2 per sector per year. So initially it was 6 sectors, so that was 12. We've just added a 7th sector with Marks and Spencer's. And you can see the names of the corporates there, from L'Oreal to Aviv, so some big corporate giants in what we believe is a world-first model. It has the benefit of being a talent magnet. Now, everything any of us do, or get out of bed, or anytime we spend, however we spend our time, we should only do it in a way in which we think we can attract the best of the best. That was sort of my structure post last minute, was trying to think, how do I just work with fewer, smarter people? And I think that's got to be a rationale and part of what we do at Founders Factory. So Founders Factory, instead of employing thousands of people, I'm happy to say we've only got 60 people. We're going to go up to 70. We would tell corporates we have rock star tech, biz dev guys, etc., that they cannot hire. We have people who could work for anyone. We have people who Facebook and Google will try to hire, but they want to work for us because, quite honestly, it's just more exciting. How exciting is it to try and help launch 50 startups a year, just about 50 a year, and to really help them, not feel that you're doing a brand promise of saying, like everybody does when they want you to take their money. Here, we can help you do this, this, and this deals. We have an amazing net promoter score amongst the entrepreneurs who work with us because of the tight links that we have with our networks and with the corporates. We can genuinely help these startups and transform them. There are companies, for example, who would do a deal like a marketing tech company who would then get a deal with 20 to 50 L'Oreal brands. It's transformational. There are ways, companies in the fintech space where once they've got that Aviv deal, it totally transforms the conversation they have with everyone else. So a little bit more on First Minute Capital. Just to say, it is, as I said, so First Minute Capital, this is this early stage venture fund where, again, the promise has to be, we can help you more than anyone else in Europe. So that's the angle. It's one of the reasons why we're so excited and the team are spending more and more time in Israel, is because we think Israeli companies can do more with Europe with the right connections. And we know we have those connections. And you can see on this slide, it's slightly small if you're at the back of the room, but this represents our LP base. which I have to slightly pinch myself. I think it's a slightly surreal LP base for a first-time fund. But what's exciting is that when we meet entrepreneurs, we really can tell them that we are a fund backed by entrepreneurs, helping other entrepreneurs, and we can do it pretty aggressively. Other core backers, Atomico, one of our cornerstones, Tencent from China, and Henkel as well as all those entrepreneurs themselves. Then quickly on founders' intelligence, the sorts of work we'll do is we'll go to a big corporate like Fannie Mae, the US mortgage industry player, and work directly with the CEO on digital transformation, help them find companies like GFE, which does automatic valuations using big data, which can transform the way they work. With Unilever, we support Unilever Foundry, which is their startup matching platform, and companies like Helpling and Unilever's worldwide deal with Helpling would come through that relationship. With Puig, the fragrance group, it's about how do they become the world-leading fragrance group in the way they see digital transformation, and what are the startups they could work with. It was quite an interesting one, because initially I met the founder and the family and CEO there, and we had a conversation about whether they should be worried enough about digital to use people like us. And I wasn't pushing it. I just said, look, I actually don't know the answer to that. You may be impervious, but there aren't, as we just heard at the end of the last session, there are not many companies that are impervious to digital. But then when you think about it, there are so many exciting ways that technology can transform that business. And obviously, the direct-to-consumer is one aspect, what they can do with data, what they can do with personalization. And then you find interesting startups that do things like using computers to actually smell through molecular analysis and stuff that's beyond my pay grade. But it does mean there's lots they can do. With L'Oreal, we're excited with one of the companies that we are incubating, which is a platform for salon booking, for salon booking. And it's a sort of obvious idea, but when you think that it's got the might of L'Oreal behind it and 130,000 salons, and the data that then enables L'Oreal to have, that becomes an exciting business. And then other deals with other support for lots of people like Shell and Henkel and others. And then I know time is really running out. I think we've spoken quite a bit on some of the challenges with corporate innovation, the fact they need to do less work on just products and more work on business model innovation. When you look at many of the great startups today, you'll see they're just business model innovations. And that's what's so exciting about business, is that you need creativity in it now. And digital enables that creativity to take on challenges very, very fast. And then portfolio, that's the other thing, is obviously a lot of corporates don't have the scale to work with enough companies to build portfolios. And then from competition to co-opetition, so collaboration, corporates working with other players who might traditionally have been seen as competitors. And then a focus less on analysis paralysis, but on execution. And then I guess the punchline on this one is that companies that work with external innovators are, it's 2 times is the amount by which those companies that do collaborate and innovate with suppliers are ahead of their industry's growth. So it's no longer an option now. The best innovation is very unlikely to sit inside a corporation themselves. They have to find it from outside, but then I guess the other bit is they have to work very hard to be attractive to entrepreneurs who want to work with them. The most obvious thing, the way they could do that, is case studies of entrepreneurs who can say good things about them, which means that they do have to take that step and try and do those deals and get good advocates from the entrepreneurial community. I think my time is now up, so I'm going to say thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Brent Hoberman. Happy you made it.